Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on stationary storage. It's been a nice first day already at the Battery Innovation Days. First, this morning we started over with a more global overview of the institutions involved and what is being done in Europe on battery research. Then this afternoon we moved on to really the long-term focus and what's going on in the world. But now in this final session of the day, we're really going to make it very concrete, and we're really going to look at the application of batteries for stationary storage, and really seeing what the challenges are here, how can we mold RNI to overcome these challenges. So that's going to be very interesting. My name is Wouter IJsmans. I'm the Executive Director of BEPA, the Batteries European Partnership Association. And at BEPA, we, as discussed this morning, we are looking to how to best fund battery research within the European Horizon Europe program. We really focus also on the stationary applications and see what research needs to be done there. If we can move back to the agenda, we will start with a presentation of Professor Dr. Stefano Passourini from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. And afterwards, we will move on to a panel discussion with some very interesting speakers who I will introduce later. But right now, I would like to give the floor to Professor Dr. Stefano Passourini. He's been a very experienced researcher in the field of stationary storage, and really with a goal to develop the materials and the systems to utilize electrochemical storage for stationary applications. So can't think of many people better to introduce this topic than Stefano, who will also tell us about the possibilities that hybrid solutions will offer for stationary storage. So Stefano, please take the floor.
Yes, thank you for the very nice introduction. And there is definitely a need for hybrid battery storage system. And maybe you can go to the next slide, please. We have this ambitious target in Europe. In many other places in the world, they are really wondering if we are going to do it. But we want to do it. So we want to decarbonize Europe by the year 2050. I mean, it's ambitious, but it's possible. Initially, for example, I'm working in Germany. Germany committed to reduce by 80% CO2 generation by 2050, but now actually Germany is committing to 100% by the year 2045. So that's, I would say, a clear sign that it is really possible. And anyway, to guarantee that we will have energy when we need in Europe, I mean, definitely for a sustainable energy use, we require effective and efficient storage. I mean, batteries have done already a lot. They are doing a lot. I mean, the entire, let's say, decarbonization of the transportation sector will most likely occur via batteries. There will be also support of fuel cells. But right now, I mean, most of these, the focus for EVs is on batteries, I would say. Batteries are definitely, lithium-ion batteries are definitely employed very much in storage, house storage, home storage right now, but they cannot do exactly everything. Next, please. So we need to look actually how to make it possible, this EU decarbonization by the year 2050. We did a easy calculation using basic assumptions. Okay, let's assume that we will go only for photovoltaic renewable electricity for the year 2050, and based on the energy consumption, the total energy consumption we had in 2018, so before the COVID, let's say, which was about 21,400 terawatt hour. And assuming that we will set these all photovoltaic panels in the south of Europe, So you can see actually that we need to cover an area of about 62,000 square kilometers to satisfy the European total energy needs. Now, if you look at this black bar, which is in the south of Europe, so across Spain, Sicily, and Greece, this is more or less the area we need to cover. This might appear impressive, and it is impressive, but it's not unfeasible. And as I mentioned before, this is a very, let's say, simple assumption, only photovoltaic, no wind, no hydropower, nothing else than photovoltaic. So this appears feasible anyway. This is the main concept we want to stress. But next slide, please. Obviously, in order to make use only of photovoltaic panels, we will have to take care of energy storage associated. If you look on the upper left graph, you see the typical monthly solar irradiation for the southern Europe, and you see that from maybe March to September we are actually above. So we would produce more energy than what we need, but then we have to cover the gap we have in winter. So from September, let's say, to February or March. Okay. We have estimated anyway that in order to cope with this winter gap, we need to store about 4,000 terawatt-hour to satisfy the entire energy needs of Europe. Okay, we also need obviously a daily energy storage because sun is available only during the day, and to satisfy the day-night cycle, we need about 29 terawatt-hours. Which is definitely much less. How do we do this? Next slide, please. Okay, so if we look at the thermal storage, the energy storage we have now, we see, as I mentioned on the right, you can see the numbers I just mentioned. So long-term storage, which means seasonal and yearly storage, are these 4,000 terawatt-hours and about 30 terawatt-hours for the day and night. And among all the storage systems we have already available, you see that the biggest challenge it is actually the seasonal storage, okay, which right now we are relying, let's say, on hydrogen to cover it, although it is not completely proved. And what we are actually pushing right now also is the use of reactive metals. So all these metals that would react with oxygen and water, producing heat, so electricity via heat, but also hydrogen. Next slide, please. So why do we consider reactive metal interesting? Okay, well, first, there are some constraints if we want to go to the EU decarbonization by 2050. I mean, the material we use for storage must have high reactivity and high energy density. There should be no criticality on the material. There should be zero CO2 emission, not toxic or radioactive, obviously. Widely available and feasible for a circular economy, so easily recyclable. Okay, and if we look at this table we have on the right, energy density versus specific energy, we see that hydrogen, this is our champion right now. Okay, but as you can see, very good specific energy in terms of kilowatt-hour per kilogram, but very low energy density in terms of kilowatt-hour per liter. If we go to the LOHC, actually, these are even worse because we lose also on specific energy by the addition of the organic compound. Next, please. So what we are actually investigating for using batteries are aluminum and sodium. Okay. They definitely match all the constraints. So both of these metals are highly reactive. They have very competitive energy density with LOHC as well as liquefied or compressed hydrogen. Both sodium and aluminum are very abundant, so there are no critical materials. They can be produced via CO2 emission-free reduction. They are not very toxic, okay? They are available almost everywhere, especially sodium, as long as there is a shore and a sea around, and they are recyclable. And both of them, as I mentioned before, can offer much better performance than LOHC. So these are right now appears to be the most interesting metals. Iron or zinc are also feasible, but I concentrated on aluminum and sodium for this presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, so we did some comparison here, just to show everybody. I mean, we compared the effectiveness of storage with aluminum, sodium, and compared with liquefied hydrogen or compressed hydrogen. Actually, we excluded the LOHCs because they are really, they have very low performance numbers. And you see that actually the energy density of, for example, aluminum is kind of unbeatable if we talk in terms of volume. So it's like 10 times that of liquefied hydrogen, but also sodium, it's more than twice. Okay, so from the point of view of storage, aluminum and sodium are much easier and much less expensive to be stored than hydrogen. Okay, re-electrification efficiency can be very high. So we are in the order of 0.8 to 0.95 because the re-electrification of sodium would be on fully electrochemical, so very high efficiency. Practical energy are then much more appealing than those of particle energy densities. We're always talking about volume, than those of liquefied or compressed hydrogen. And the clear number are given by the storage volume. So how much volume do we need to store enough, the 4,000 terawatt hour I was mentioning before? And you see that talking about aluminum and sodium, this volume is much lower than hydrogen. Anyway, I mean, you can nicely see the comparison on the right plot, which compares, let's say, the volume to store the 4,000 terawatt hour energy as hydrogen, compressed, liquefied, sodium, or aluminum. Next, please. In terms of production also, it's clear, I mean, these are the values of the current European production of hydrogen from electrolysis. This is what we are comparing with, not hydrogen from hydrocarbons, for example, and hydrogen and primary aluminum. So you see that to achieve the production of primary aluminum we need for the annual storage of energy, we only need to multiply the present production by a factor of a little bit less of 100, okay? While, for example, to produce enough hydrogen to cope with the seasonal energy storage demand, then we should multiply the production by a factor of 400. And not to mention about storage, which we practically do not have available. So reactive metals are definitely of interest for energy storage, and we just need to, next slide, please. We just need to find ways to integrate batteries in this large energy storage, okay? For example, for sodium, there are already some primary batteries existing, and which extract practically sodium out of the seawater. And additional benefits is that during this extraction, we are actually producing desalinized water and chlorine production, while during the energy generation, so we just reverse the reaction by reacting sodium with water and oxygen, and we do produce sodium hydroxide just by chance. It would be extremely helpful for the CO2 trapping. So we just need to bubble air inside the waste water of this reaction, and then we produce sodium carbonate. So this is more or less one of the possibilities. I mean, there are many other electrochemical systems that can use reactive metals to store energy and produce energy. But I just want to finish. If you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, I just want to mention this project I am coordinating, European project, Storage Research Infrastructure Ecosystem, in which the key research priority is actually the hybridization of energy storage. can be that batteries are only used for one of the two steps, storage or re-electrification of the stored energy. But what we want to do also is to foster a kind of European ecosystem of industry and research on hybrid energy storage technologies, as well as provide access to industry and academia to very advanced scientific infrastructure, which is available in Europe. And right now it's not integrated in a single effort. And with this, I conclude my presentation, and I would like to thank everybody for listening and for inviting me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Stefano. And I gather that you have an actual project meeting on the Stories project right now, so you have to be leaving us. But thank you so much for this overview, and just shows one of the options. But there are many options to tackle this problem, and we see that it's a very big challenge indeed. So thank you for this. This introduction.
We need to think about this, okay? More
exactly.
Bye-bye. Enjoy the meeting.
Thank you, Stefano. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Think about this and talk about this in the next panel discussion. I would start off to give the floor to Javier Olarte. He's working as a technology transfer director at the CIC Energy Gune in Spain. And he's also been very active in the Batteries Europe research groups on stationary storage. I believe Javier has some issues with his voice this afternoon. So if you need to turn up your microphone, know that it's not your system, but it's just Javier, but he will try to do his best. And he has a lot of interesting things to say. So Javier, what have you been working on within Batteries Europe, and what have you identified as the key research needs to get stationary storage off the ground in Europe?
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to do my best. Sorry, this is not my original voice. So thank you both for this opportunity to present the results of Batteries Europe's work. Selecting a few challenges for Europe from the perspective of stationary and storage is a challenge. But if we need to select head is to improve competitiveness. Yeah, this is the big challenge of our industry in terms of stationary application. On the one hand, developing a solid European energy storage industry with cost and technology competitiveness will allow us to improve security, flexibility on our electricity grid in order to decarbonize our society with higher percentage of renewable penetration, and therefore meet our Green Deal target, as Passourini were mentioning. This is the top challenge that we face at the European level when talking about the stationary application. Okay, if we go down into the details, another challenge to impact on competitiveness in our industry is to do with promoting ways of increasing usability of the energy storage systems by facilitating interoperability and multiple settings of battery systems, where a strong bet and investment on digitalization of the storage asset will ease the expected massive deployment that we all wish for our continent. A third challenge, which is to do with leading innovation, that I'm sure everyone is going to talk in these days of innovation. But when talking about application, improving performance of our batteries is a key challenge. But when talking about improving performance of energy storage for storage applications, the specific names are to do with increasing the lifetime of our batteries, increase the reliability as we have today, lower the self-discharge, which is a relevant KPI for the technology, increase the round-trip efficiency, and of course, improve the safety of the overall system, not at cell level, but at system level. And last but not least, developing new long-term energy storage with the lowest possible LCOS. Yeah. This is basically what Batteries Europe has issued as the main challenge. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier, for this overview. Yeah, a lot of challenges still to be done. That's clear. But yeah, really clear, succinct overview there that we need security and flexibility, interoperability, and also just increase the performance and then on all those KPIs that you have said here. Let me turn to Claude Chanson. Claude, you are the general manager of Recharge. Recharge is the nonprofit association representing the multifold interest of advanced rechargeable batteries and the lithium battery industry in Europe. You've been around for a long time. Recharge, I think, was founded in '98 already. So and you're very plugged into all these initiatives. Do you feel that these specific needs for stationary storage are also tackled on European level, or is it too much focus on the electric vehicle market for now?
Yes, thank you for the good question. Yes, I hope you hear me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. The point is indeed what can be done at European level, because that's really the point of interest for Recharge, to help developing this industry. It's a fact that at the moment, the growth of the EV industry is really rushing, I would say. There is a very strong development rates. And of course, it's logical that the European Union is looking at the EV industry. And I would not say it should be at the expense of the energy storage. The reality is today, energy storage development is coming a bit later. Not that it is not developing, but the rate cannot be compared. And we see a lot of opportunities. We have also to say probably that the market is more complex. We have been listening and heard by Stefano already about the multiple timelines. I mean, seasonal storage, daily storage, and so on. And all of these is energy storage and correspond to multiple applications, multiple format of batteries, and probably also multiple chemistries of batteries, where there is probably here also much more room for new chemistry innovations that we have in the EV market. So based on this, of course, the batteries regulation is focused on the EV, but I believe there is certainly room in this regulation, and it's intended for, that there is support for the competitiveness of European industry for energy storage as well, and not only for electric vehicles. And the reason are based on these some of fundamental criteria that are fully applicable as well to energy storage as for any electric vehicle batteries. For example, when talking about looking at criteria like carbon footprint for the batteries, that's really a new criteria that would, in fact, support batteries that are made with a low carbon footprint, potentially, hopefully, in Europe, that could make them more competitive compared to products manufactured elsewhere or in conditions where providing a higher carbon footprint. There is certainly less room for being very specific, as I said, because the market is very broad, the chemistries are broad, the number of applications is broad. So we will certainly find less specific targets in the battery regulation, but I believe really the generic one should apply. And finally, I would say we have the same risk that we have for the EV battery. Also, the regulation should indeed drive this new competitiveness based on sustainability of batteries, but also should not try to go too far and potentially hinder potential new development ways, routes, and technical solutions. And so should be open enough to have these potential further developments.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you. Very clear. It's sustainability can be a driver, but we can also see how it should not hinder these new developments and this new kind of chemistries coming online for the specific needs of the stationary storage market. Of course, one of the solutions that was already mentioned in the presentation by Stefano is the Redox flow batteries. We have with us here Kees van der Kerk. He's the Director of Business Development at Volterion, but also the president of I was going to say new association, Flow Batteries Europe, but you've already been around now for quite some time, quite a few months. So Kees, what's now the role of how do you see the role of flow batteries in this landscape, and what has Flow Batteries Europe aiming for so far?
Well, Wouter, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Flow Batteries Europe is indeed quite new, about 6 months now, I guess, and an international organization, not-for-profit, with representing the industry, research centers, and startups working on flow batteries. And our intention is obviously to promote the flow battery as a very sustainable, long-duration storage technology. It's not the case that we think it's the only one, but we truly believe that flow batteries should and need more attention than they have right now in Europe. And basically that was the main reason to start with this association. I assume most people will know something about flow batteries, but maybe in a short summary, I think
Please do.
the most important benefits of the flow battery is that it is truly environmentally friendly and very safe. There's no overheating or explosion danger or whatsoever. All parts can be recycled or reused. And at the end of the day, if you build larger systems, because we can scale capacity independently from power, we can also build low-cost solutions. So we truly believe it's a sustainable solution for long-term energy storage and needs more attention. And if you look into China or the US, you see more engagement in flow batteries than in Europe currently. So we believe Europe should catch up. And we also understand clearly that mobile applications right now are the focus for the policymakers. The European car industry is important, and we need to stay on the ball there to be sure that we have a long-term car manufacturing industry here. And the next step will be stationary storage. But there, of course, we truly believe that flow batteries make sense. And what we are focusing on right now is just more attention in general, some changes in legislation, as we think storage should be an entity as such in the energy system, and next to generation, distribution, and consumption. And we also believe that having more projects for long-term storage with flow batteries will also enable us to scale up, because at the end of the day, it's also about cost, not only sustainability. And if you want to reach the cost targets we have, you have to scale. Very simple.
Yeah, very clear. In the presentation of Stefano, we also saw, there's a medium-term storage need, a long-term storage need, also more for the short-term day cycles. And Javier also stressed the interoperability between the different systems. Do you see an integration of flow batteries with other systems in complex hybrid systems as well? Or is it more of a standalone solution for the moment in the grid?
Well, let's say in general, I believe that all technologies should be have their place probably in the future storage system. I think let's say in general, a battery earns the money the more you use it. So let's say for any technology as such, the more you use the same technology, the better it is in an application. Adding a second technology is often possible. The question is it the better solution? I think if you can avoid it, it's better to just stick to one technology. If there are clear reasons to have, let's say, two technologies work together, you should do it. But it's more an exception than the rule, is my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Kees. You already mentioned that you want to focus on energy storage as a separate category within the European energy system, that it really deserves its own place and put on a pedestal. Good thing we have Susan Taylor here with us. She's the energy storage analyst at the European Association for the Storage of Energy, EASE. Welcome, Susan. Susan, EASE is representing the energy storage sector at the European level. Batteries, but not only batteries, also different kind of technologies for longer term, like thermal storage. That's a wide scope of TRL activities going on right now. So there's R&I going on things that might be going to the market soon, things that might be still takes years to develop. What's your take on this from EASE? Where should we focus on for now?
Good, thanks, Walter. And I think this is really an important question, especially in relation to the 2030 climate targets, which are really approaching pretty quickly in the next decade. So I think we really need to think about what the system needs are going to be within the next 10 years and how the energy system itself is really going to change. So Stefano has already touched on this, that the intermittent renewables are going to increase significantly in the next 10 years and obviously to 2050. So when it comes to more variable renewables in the system, we need to think about the flexibility needs. And of course, energy storage is one solution for flexibility. And of course, batteries have a very critical role to play, specifically short duration, timescales, seconds up to hours. However, as Stefano also highlighted, they're really not a one-size-fits-all solution. And we really need to open our mind to really understand what are the needs of the system in terms of longer duration storage. And this is something that we're going to see more and more in the next decade in order to balance this high renewable energies in the power mix. This will require a significant amount of energy shifting. And for this, we really need long-term storage. So for example, compressed air energy storage, liquefied energy air storage, pumped hydrothermal storage. So there's all these different solutions that really need to be included in the system. And I think that the market itself should really be dictated by the system needs. So what this means is that services need to be fulfilled by specific technologies that can fulfill this need within the system itself. So I think that's really important and something that needs to be kept in mind, that we really need to start looking at investing in these technologies now in order to drive the costs down in the next decade, in order to meet the climate targets and the high renewable energy system that's foreseen for 2030.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you mentioned the 2030 targets, and that we need a lot of R&I to go there. We need to do investments. Will that be enough? If we just invest in R&I, can we solve the problems, or are there any other hurdles that we need to overcome to implement all these brilliant solutions between now and then?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a chicken egg sort of situation. I mean, we really need to drive the cost down of these solutions, but in order to do that, we maybe need the policies to drive that, and it all just goes hand in hand. So I think one of the main barriers now for energy storage is a solid business case and really having adequate financing and economic signals for storage. So this is really critical, especially for these less mature technologies that we're going to be needing in the next 10 years to support the flexibility of the energy system. So it's really these long duration that are probably less mature than the batteries at the moment, or the shorter duration technologies that really would need maybe some more financial support or specific markets for this, specific services where the technologies are remunerated based on the services that they provide. So this is something that also needs to be rethought, and the market itself probably needs to be reframed in that context. Okay, thank you. Very, very clear on that. Yeah, we need multiple angles, not just the R&I. Just to pivot back to Claude for a second. Claude, this morning you were also in the panel about the recycling nature of what we're going to do with the batteries. A lot of talk has been around using second life EV batteries for the energy system. Do you think that will take off in a massive number, or will it remain limited for the upcoming years?
Well, that's the question everybody would like to know the answer. And I can tell you nobody has the answer. Okay. What we just can tell is indeed, let's say, be prepared for this and prepare it as a serious opportunity. And we as Recharge, we really support this concept of being prepared to have a second life for batteries. That's really fundamental. And it could indeed play a significant role in this market for energy storage. But there are too many parameters which are still unknown that do not permit to anticipate really whether the business case will be really easy, let's say, and promoting the development, or maybe more challenging and limiting this second life usage to more specific case, or let's say sub part of the systems where it could make sense, and then this would not become a major trend. So it's difficult to say, but at least what we are advocating for is to have, first of all, the legal framework ready for that. That's really important, to make sure that the second life business is becoming a real competitive and fair business. These include, of course, the producer responsibility, because even if you go to second life, at some time you will have to recycle these batteries again, and that has to be ensured by the same responsibility as for the first placing on the market. We are also very careful about having second life battery being as safe as the primary one. We all know that lithium batteries have the risk to take in fire if the safety is not correctly handled. And stationary batteries, of course, have to be as safe when they come from secondary or reused cells as if they were produced by an original producer. That's two important major points. And then when it's come to business, as I said, it's still too difficult to say. We have to anticipate what will be the cost reduction of the new technology, what will be the performance progress compared to the remaining performance of these second life batteries. And also, we don't have to forget the potential interest for the recycling industry, because in the future, if we believe that all these metals that are stored in the today EV batteries still have a growing value, like cobalt and nickels and others, then it may become potentially more interesting to directly recycle, recover the metal, and reuse in new battery rather than push to second life. So as I said, I have no conclusion finally on what will be the winner.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just a reminder to everybody who is listening and watching, if you have a question for the panel, just you can put it in the chat, and we will put it to the panel. Javier, from the Batteries Europe perspective, have you also looked at these the second life topic, and have you not found the silver bullet that will, but have you also seen what do you think that the research needs are there?
Basically, we share the same point of view. In terms of business opportunity, it's difficult to say whether it is better to go for recycling or second life because of two reasons. The business of second life is still small and very mature, and the cost of reprocessing the cells to guarantee the safety is a big challenge. As far as we know, those that are already starting to deploy second life batteries have a big concern and a big question mark on whether the cost is going to be far enough from a new battery. This is what reality is telling us today. On the other side, we do not have enough volume of batteries to be recycled, and this means that for industry of recycling, this process is very not very economically feasible. So we need to wait for improved process and more feasible recycling industry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not just the battery industry as such that needs to make improvements. It's also we need to look at recycling
Yes.
and see how they improve as well.
And let's cross finger, because we either get this process more economically feasible, otherwise we will have a problem.
Yeah. Claude, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Vuda. There is a point I did miss, in fact, in my point, and thanks you also for confirmation from Javier's side. When we say that it's not very clear yet whether the business case will be very attractive or not, we also wish that this would be remaining as an open opportunity for the industry. And in order to keep this as an open opportunity for the industry, we also believe that the regulation should not be too, let's say, driving on one way or the other. One way or the other is indeed the alternative, whether you oblige or really promote a second life usage, or whether you push to more recycling. In fact, we have seen in the political discussion today, there is this temptation to, let's say, promote this type of one kind of ideas. Like, for example, we see the views from some MEPs at the moment, which, as you know, are writing the amendments for the proposed regulation, where they indeed go quite far in saying the second life of batteries should be mandatory. And if they still function, they still should be used. And I can understand where this point comes from, but based on what we see today from the industry, we are not very supportive of such strict constraint and requirement, because it may end up that based on the real conditions at the time when the battery will come back, maybe in as we say very often, about something like 10 years from now, which is not a small change for the industry in 10 years. So maybe this type of regulation could not make sense at the time, because maybe, for example, there would be a critical need to recycle to get more raw materials. And then this obligation would in fact just limit the possibility of the market to adjust to the need. So that was just an additive point, and of course a message to say, the future is what we'll make of it, and the regulation, of course, will put some trends. But in such very difficult cases, I would recommend, in fact, of course, to have the possibility for the industry to self-determine what is, of course, sustainable on one side, but as well best fitting the need of the society.
Yeah. Thank you, Claude. I think you want to add something, Javier? Yeah.
Yes. But sooner or later, we will need to improve our industrial capability to recycle the materials. Even though today is not economically feasible, we could not forget to support this development. And the second life could be interim or something in between that could help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not the final station, it could be the sort of intermediary phase that we need to go through. Thank you so much. I want to pivot back to Kees for a second, because a lot of talk about business cases and improving the feasibility of those and the security of the business cases for stationary storage. Kees, where do you see that for flow batteries, the research needs is to improve is there a research need for the business case to improve, or is it just we need to get the scale up the technology so the costs go down? So, or is there specific research needs on areas for flow batteries that we need to address to get better business cases?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, in general, I would say that there's not the simple flow battery. There are many different kind of electrolytes. So let's say the general answer would be there's still a lot of research to be done. There's still potential improvements to be made. So investing more in new electrolytes, organic electrolytes, safer or cleaner ones would just makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, certain flow batteries have a proven lifetime, a proven efficiency work. And there it's more about scalability, bringing down costs by having more projects. So in general, let's say the answer is twofold. On the one hand, yes, we need more research. And on the other hand, yes, we need more projects just to scale up. There are already projects, and it's not always, let's say, a business case in terms of money. I can give you an example of, and maybe you know about it. Some countries are trying to make their infrastructure more sustainable, like tunnels, where you have, where you need power to manage the tunnel. And there they have PV or wind installations, which produce energy that can be stored in a battery. And we see projects now in that area from governments where it's not the cost as such, but it's more the main focus on a sustainable infrastructure which drives the process. And there, safety, sustainability are key, and flow batteries are well positioned to fulfill the needs.
Yeah, so there are then tunnels in remoter areas where they have local energy
Yeah, but even in the Netherlands, Wouter, I think where you come from as well, which is very densely populated, but because we don't have a lot of nature, we just dig tunnels beneath the nature to keep it. The small parts of the Dutch countryside which are still there.
Yeah, but even with the high grid connection, that was the point I was trying to make. Even with high grid connections, it's still a business case that's feasible right now if you look at
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. If then maybe a last point for Susan before we go to the wrap up. From East side, you are trying to position energy storage as a separate category within all the European frameworks. I think EASE now has been going around for 10 years. Like, have you seen a significant improvement in those in the past 10 years? That does it get more the attention that it needs, or do we need 10 more years of EASE for really seeing the benefits?
No, I think that's a good question, but definitely energy storage. I mean, it was evident in the clean energy package, the first definition for storage. So this really put storage on the map in that context. If I can just maybe divert a bit from that question and go back to what I was mentioning earlier about the business case and just the different types of storage and how they, long duration storage very recently has also, there's quite a lot of hype. I'm sure Kees is also aware of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council. So really identifying this need and the barriers for deploying these type of large-scale, highly capital-intensive projects, which will be needed in the next decade and beyond. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of movement around storage, and there's a lot more visibility and awareness. And I think it's really good that there's a lot more focus on the specific applications and the value that different technologies are able to bring in terms of balancing the system and how they really support the climate targets for a high renewable energy system. So definitely storage from 10 years ago is definitely not something so abstract anymore. It's still in its adolescence in some technologies, but it's growing rapidly.
Yeah. And for now, we have mostly talked about or made reference to like grid interconnection for stationary storage. How do we look at industry applications for the stationary storage? Will there be a big chance for stationary storage when industry starts to electrify in the future? I don't know, Claude, if you have. Is it something you are looking at as well? Or?
Yes, indeed. I mean, this question of energy storage is attached, in fact, to the global society decarbonization. And we see, as you said, many opportunities, for example, at the industry level. Also, I would like to underline at the end users level. We should not forget, of course, we talk in general of big system energy storage, but the end user energy storage at home also could become a large market because of the interest of people having some solar panels. And, this market is growing as well, quite well. And so attached homes energy storage will become a part of it. When it comes to the industry, yes, of course, there is a plan here to have industry producing batteries with decarbonized energy when it comes to the battery manufacturing, because that's a product which is today under discussion. But we believe, as you have heard about the Sustainable Product Initiative in the batteries in the Commission, which will require more or less the similar sustainability criteria to all type of products. And then this question of having for the industry access to decarbonized energy will be attached to, on one side, the production, as we heard, but also potentially on local storage and direct usage of let's say, energy storage for their own use. So we see indeed multiple cases where this global trend to decarbonization is driving energy storage and development at various levels of usage in the network.
Yeah. Gabriel, is that also something that you have been focusing on within Batteries Europe? Oh, you're muted, I think, or your voice has gone completely.
Yes, okay.
I was muted, sorry about that. Yeah, I very much agree. When talking about increasing the renewable energy, the energy storage based on battery can support the grid at user level, domestic, commercial or industrial, or utility level. The three are possible, and ideally a mixture of the three will give more reliability to the grid. This very much will depend on the different country by country regulations, and it is a must and it's a challenge that we have in Europe to support consistent support of domestic, industrial, and utility scale. Otherwise, we might end up not with the most efficient strategy. No.
Yeah. Is that something that the harmonization between the different nations, is that something that's also on your agenda at EASE, Susan, or are you really at EASE targeting the European level?
So at EASE, definitely we're focusing mainly on the European level, of course, and then in terms of the decarbonization targets themselves, this is really a topic that has come up a lot, and it's really driven the uptake of renewables. So in hand with that, it would also logically follow that storage targets, for instance, could really drive the uptake of storage in at least the short term to 2030 and beyond to 2050. So this is an idea that we're trying to also work on at EASE and try and establish really, holistically the system needs. I know the flexibility can be covered by a number of services, but energy storage really has a critical role to play in that system flexibility.
Yeah. Thank you. Just one final one for everybody to react on, and basically sort of make your final points. Like, if you should pick one and most important priority for battery research into stationary storage for the next 10 years, what is it? What should we really get right to get stationary storage off the ground, Claude?
Yes, to start with this question, I think, yes, it's, first of all, it's quite technical. Indeed, I think we saw by Stefano that there is a need, of course, to have the right technical solution. And we have seen, as I did mention already, that we have, in fact, multiple applications, as was mentioned by Javier, level of interaction of the storage with the grid, behind the meter and beyond the meter. And so we, as was said, these represent various technologies, various applications, and then we can expect various chemistries or various solutions to be more competitive at each level. I took the point from Kees as well to say, yes, the battery, it's very well said, the battery is profitable if you use it. And indeed, the type of usage is differing. Therefore, the solution is probably different, the best solution to be. So research and innovation, I think, indeed could be focused or should focus and continue focusing on the multiple opportunities. I know there is Ron, and I tend to agree with what Keith said, that maybe there was a lack of really focus on the need to have not, in fact, one good solution like we see today for the electric mobility. Everybody saying, well, lithium-ion batteries have made a solution for the market, and then the market is developing. We should consider that energy storage, in fact, is a multiple market, not a single one with a single technology. And then, therefore, there is certainly room to have this development of new technologies. And I would, let's just say, having a word of hope for the future. I was in the batteries industry a very long time ago. I have 30 years experience. When I started, lithium-ion batteries were really very expensive batteries, and nobody could believe that these batteries would at some point become mass market. So I would not worry so much about new technology coming with some high price to start with, because we have a lot to learn from this experience on the lithium batteries, let's say, price roadmap or price experience. When applied to other technology, we should be or may be surprised how affordable batteries may become in the future for all of these applications.
Nice. That's a word of hope. Javier, what do we really need to get right in the next few years?
In practice, what we need in Europe is to take certain actions to reduce costs. Otherwise, other regions we will not be able to catch up with other competitor regions worldwide. So, whatever certain action that could drive to reduce cost of European systems from cell level to system level is a must. We need it. Otherwise, we will lose position. This is for certain. For a long time, I would suggest that we need to keep on driving innovation because what is coming next will be something different.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Cost reduction for now, innovation for the future. Very clear. Susan, what's the thing that we need to get right?
Yeah, so as I've already mentioned, it's foresight. We need to look ahead. We really need to understand how the energy system is going to change, what services we need, and what technologies will best fit those services and fulfill those solutions. So I really think it's from our side also at EASE that we really have a level playing field and a technology neutral approach to really the market needs being dictated by what the system itself is needing, and that being fulfilled by technologies that fill those needs.
Yeah, very clear. Good. Case, what do we need to get right to have the liftoff in stationary storage?
Well, maybe it's a bit boring, but I believe that a comprehensive, comparative study on the environmental impact is important, and to really compare different technologies to be sure we choose the right ones. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting a sustainable future, and we should be sure that what we do is really the best for, let's say, the future.
Nice. I think that's a very good closer, and I think it will be very interesting to see what we'll discuss about that tomorrow, because tomorrow the Battery Innovation Days will begin again at 9:30 in the morning with the plenary, which is titled The Further Development of Sustainable Batteries, which is a session which is really all about the sustainability and how R&I needs to dovetail with that. So I think that will be a very interesting session for the people to attend as well. I'll also want to point everybody who has been interested in this topic of stationary storage to also have a look at the mobility session at 2 o'clock tomorrow, because part of the discussion is indeed if like electrical EV batteries will be actually stationary batteries in the futures if we get smart charging going. So that's also a sort of link with the stationary storage. I see one more question. We have 2 minutes 30. It's from Johan Blondel from the Commission, so we cannot ignore that. How critical is stationary storage for the success of the EV deployment, given the foreseeable strain on the electrical grid? That's definitely one of the questions that will be tackled tomorrow as well, Johan. So please tune in as well at 2 o'clock. But maybe Claude, if you can answer this in 1 minute.
Yeah, I would think I just make it short. I would say it's not so critical. I would not say take the term critical, because I believe indeed the success of the EV is depending on more straightforward solutions, like having a rechargeable station, having electricity being produced, and so on. That's really the main short-term target. Then indeed, to have a successful renewable energy usage of energy in the EV, then stationary storage become critical or become important. But I believe for the moment, hopefully, and we see that the EV will develop, and apparently we have the development of the stationary energy storage, which is coming soon, but a bit later, and this should not hinder the development of the EV.
Yeah, thank you for that, Claude. And then, yeah, tomorrow we have a lot of interesting opinions on that. We have ETSO, the grid operators, who will give their view, and also we have a representative from Eurocity who actually look about integrating all those charging points for EVs that we need into the system, and then if we need storage, then how they will having to integrate that. For now, I want to thank everybody present here for their contribution to the panel. It was a very interesting discussion, and I wish everybody a very good night. I wish Javier a lot of speedy recovery, and hope you'll be back on full form soon, because it's definitely the voice of Batteries Europe is a voice that deserves to be heard. So, but thank you so much, everybody, for your contribution, and have a good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Have a good evening.
Thank you.